Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the February edition of our monthly Community Engagement Spotlight Series. My name is Sarah O'Connor, and I'm the Program Director for the Office of Community Engagement at MCW. Please note that this session is being recorded, and please be sure you are muted throughout the presentation. I'd like to begin with a statement from the Office of Community Engagement. We wish to acknowledge the Indigenous people who are past and present stewards of the land on which we pursue our just cause of a healthy community for everyone. We encourage everyone to use the chat bar to share comments or pose questions for our guests at any time. This monthly series features community partners and the important work they are doing. We highlight their goals, motivations, and accomplishments, and the ways they have partnered with people and programs at MCW. Today, we are honored to have Corey Fells from Black Space joining us as our featured guest, and Tony Whitaker, a dear colleague of mine, serving as our facilitator. At this time, I would like to introduce our Senior Associate Dean for Community Engagement, Dr. Stacy Young, who will say a few words about Black Space's important work for the community. Dr. Young.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm very pleased to introduce you to Corey Fells, the co-founder of Black Space. He has a wealth of experience in brand development, team leadership, and cultural organizing. Corey is an 8-year military veteran with over a decade of experience in supporting Black and Brown communities through advocacy and cultural ideation. His passion for normalizing therapy for Black and Brown people has led him to co-found Black Space to create free therapy in communities that need it most. Thank you, Mr. Fells, for being our featured spotlight guest today. I would now like to introduce you to today's facilitator, Tony Whitaker. Tony is a program manager in the Department of Radiology and an award-winning diversity, equity, and inclusion champion. She oversees wellness initiatives, promotions, residents' educational experiences, mentorship, and DEI initiatives within the department. We are so pleased to have Tony with us today. Tony, thank you for serving as our spotlight facilitator, and I now turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Young, and shout out to the Office of Community Engagement for bringing us together. Can y'all hear me okay? Can I get a thumbs up? Because you know technology can be funny sometimes, right? Appreciate you, Dr. Young. Appreciate the claps. Thank you all for being here. Yesterday I had on shorts, today I had on a snowsuit, okay? But we're gonna have a warm and cozy conversation, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with Mr. Corey Fells, co-founder of Black Space. So we're gonna dive right into it. Corey and I have known each other for a few years now, so it's just gonna be a dialogue of great encouragement, inspiration, and how we can continue to collaborate and support Black Space. So Corey, what's up? How you doing today? One word to describe your day so far. You know how we do it.
Shivering. I'll just say that it's shivering. Yesterday, like you said, it was 60 degrees. And today I had to, at 7 in the morning, scrape snow and ice my windshield to drop my daughter off for daycare. So shivering is the word of the day today.
Listen, check on your friends, y'all. Check on your friends today. We're not okay right now, but we're in a great space to talk about mental health, right? We know that it's a topic that's getting more traction. And Corey, as we've seen from the beautiful pictures, what your organization does, such a beautiful gift to our community. So I just want to say thank you, first of all, because this is hard work. It is not easy. And so I honor you for your commitment to it. But we honor the story because the birth of Black Space is such a beautiful story. So we have our outlines of questions, but you know how I do it. We're gonna, finesse it a little bit. And I would love for anyone who hasn't heard the story of how Black Space was birthed. Can you briefly share that story with us?
Yes, I will be able to share with you 1/3 of this magnificent story because Black Space is co-founded by 3 different individuals. My story starts when I lost my mom when I was in high school, transitioning from junior year to senior year at Whitefish Bay. I was a part of the 220 program, so I was a North Side individual being bussed out, having to wake up at 4:30 in the morning just to catch my first bus at 5:30, just to get to school on time at 7:45 every single day. And that transition, that kind of just shook my world. But however, survival was key because my mom was all that I had. I essentially became immediately homeless and I had to figure out what my next meal was going to be. And so after transitioning from high school, I lived with my high school teacher during the time that she was the only person I knew about my mom's passing. My mom was always bedridden. She never was able to actually attend parent teacher conferences. So I was, ever since elementary, was given the opportunity to be able to take my report card on home and just expected a signature. I never really caused any real trouble, so there was no need for my mom to ever really come to school. And so after living with my teacher, she asked me a very pivotal question. What do I want to do after my life? I was very mad. I was very angry. I was very confused. And I told her I didn't know. She suggested the military. And that would be a place where, one, I would be able to have a home and I would be able to have a set, stable environment. And then I'll be able to still be able to learn how to grow. I wasn't in the mindset of transitioning over into high school or transitioning over into college just quite yet, because I just didn't want to have that continuation of what I've experienced at Whitefish Bay. Tons of kids being able to have a lot of things and resources readily available to them. There's kids complaining about, oh, I got a BMW instead of a Mercedes Benz for my birthday. Woe is me. I just didn't want that to be amplified when I went to college. So went to the military, the Army Reserves, and it was an eye-opening experience. 10 years later, going from the military and then transitioning back into the civilian world, 2020 was the exact same time that we were all kind of being faced with this different reality, but it kind of got coupled with the fact that I was transitioning back into the civilian world. March of 2020, the world slapped us all in the face. Milwaukee was shut down, and we were having to deal with our own woes and anguish that we were suppressing for however long. For me, it was the anguish of me losing my mom and then just suppressing it with military activities that I would say that weren't the best and just that macho machismo environment. Transitioning and being able to have that real pinnacle or that life-changing, altering time happening in my life really kind of helped me and led me to finding a therapist. I did have one therapist before 2020, and that was right when my mom passed away. And I was given the opportunity to talk to a white male therapist that lived in Brookfield, where I visited his home, and I told him about my concerns about just mere survival. His suggestion to me was that I should probably drop out of high school, work at a grocery store, if I'm so concerned about my survival. I ended the conversation there, and probably a month later, he wanted to do a health and wellness check, and he came to my actual school, poked his head in my classroom, and waited for me to leave my classroom to be able to chat with me. My trust and my disbelief just kind of skyrocketed until 2020, 10 years later. And my supervisor told me on a Zoom call I looked stressed and I needed to be able to possibly talk to someone. Mind you, I'm a very private person. I haven't talked to him about any of my woes, but that's something to be told. You look stressed through a Zoom call. And so I took his advice and he actually gave me the therapist. The therapist gave me so many different keys of being able to talk about my own anguish, being able to also converse about how I feel when I'm having a disagreement with a manager or a partner or a friend. And it didn't really click into me until probably 10 to 12 sessions. And I was able to say, oh, I'm having practice conversations with my therapist that are very applicable for me in the real world, that are allowing me to be able to have that comfortable space of saying, hey, how can I articulate my thoughts, my feelings, and everything that's going on with me to another person that may not know what's going on? And I told all my best friends. My next person I chatted with was Darius Smith. He's the other co-founder. And he said, Corey, I'll do therapy if you are able to sit there with me because I don't know where to go. And I'm sorry, I'm not able to kind of feel comfortable. I told him we're not a couple, so I'm not able to do that with you, but maybe we can figure something out. That therapist that kind of gave me my first real positive experience ended up being the other co-founder. That's the third person. Her name is Dr. Leah A. Knox. Some of you may be familiar with her already. And Dr. Knox said, you know what? Well, let's do this, and we're going to do it. We're going to try to provide this free for the community. And we're going to do this in group settings. So we have group sessions for men, women, and LGBTQIA all separately for Black and Brown people. From my experience, I also understand that a lot of Black and Brown people aren't able to have that first time positive experience with another Black or Brown therapist that also comes from the same neighborhood that they come from, that also are able to relate to them, that are able to understand the cultural nuanceness that comes with just having a simple dialogue. So from there, 2020, September 2020, birthed Black Space. And since then, we've been on the Today Show with Carson Daly. We have gotten many sponsors and funders and support from foundations such as Drew and Lauren Holiday before Drew got traded. From United Way Greater Milwaukee Foundation, from the Brewers Family Foundation, a lot of families that have donated 5 figures or even more just to the cause, and individuals. Funny enough, today, the video you all saw was from our group session, our cooking session, where we kind of mesh in group therapy along with cooking. And I just put out the announcement that we're doing another series this coming Monday. We have 30 seats, and I did the invite, or just pretty much put it out at 8 a.m. We are officially sold out at 12 or noon today for all 30 seats. And that's just showing how the demand that's needed for individuals who want to be able to have possible group therapy or just have a therapist and have a great experience for the first time.
Corey, you said so much in this. Let me capture so much of the essence of what you said. Number one, well, I got the invite, so now I'm mad I can't. You got to put me on the list, Corey. Okay. Put me on the list. You said so much. One, you honored us with your story. So thank you. I truly believe our story is one of the most powerful things we possess. And you created triumph over some tragedy. You used your story, the loss of your mother, having to really guide yourself through this world as a young Black male was not easy. So I honor you in that. And then you talked about the need for having access to a therapist that saw you. So important, that saw you and what your challenges were and met you where you were. And that's so important. That's one of the barriers that we talk about, right? Seeing people that look like us, people of color, and having that connection. And of course, Dr. Knox, she was featured in the video. I love her. We love her. We love Darius. We appreciate your heart in this work and creating the space that people can feel like they can connect and heal and find comfort. What a beautiful gift that you all bring. We're going to talk about that continuously throughout our conversation. But let me ask you this, for someone who wants to support Black space, who works at MCW, community partnership is what this conversation is also about. It's so important to understand, how have you worked well with others around partnering with Black space, and what specifically did that look like for you?
Yeah, first and foremost, I'll be remiss to say that these 3 ladies were the reasons why we were able to even have an ingratiated relationship with MCW. Yourself, Tony, being the person that kind of played as that liaison to be able to connect us. Jessica Olsen, a wonderful human being that has definitely helped Black space shape itself and really come into its own and fold. And also Dr. Jordan. These were very pivotal individuals that kind of saw us for who we were at a very early stage and allowed us to be able to evolve and grow with MCW and along with that as a nonprofit within itself. From the inception of our time, we've only done group sessions, but since then, we've actually saw the value that we can provide cultural competency for other organizations that are working in the same areas or providing services for the same community of individuals that we're working with. So, for example, we're working with Penfield Children's Center and also Silver Spring Neighborhood Center. These are organizations that are very pivotal in their communities and hold a very special space. We're working with their staff because these are 2 nonprofit entities that are exhausted from resources, from an emotional standpoint and a physical standpoint, and we're coming in to be able to hopefully rejuvenate them, because where are the use of these nonprofit individuals if they're not able to be rejuvenated to be able to provide the services that are needed for their communities? So we're providing them a space for mental wellness. We're also providing them a space to be able to find other ways of being able to cope outside of work. Nonprofit is a thankless job. You're giving your whole entire life. 8 hours is the bare minimum. You're probably given 10 to 12 hours. So from here, we've been able to rejuvenate these staff members, be able to create a higher retention rate, but also being able to help them service their communities even better. So with our relationship with MCW, we've been able to ingratiate ourselves through many different programs from the Division of Suicide Prevention, and myself and Dr. Knox sitting on the advisory board or committee, to actually providing to that division cultural competency by way of Dr. Knox. For us to being able to also introduce ourselves to the student body of students that are Black or Brown, because of the soaring rates and suicide rates for medical students of color and throughout the industry, and being able to provide them another outlet and a medical professional that they could be able to talk to that may not be directly associated with MCW. To us being able to also have a growing relationship with Dr. Cush, Dr. Shapiro, and many others, to be able to see where there might be a possible fit for us and the huge organization at MCW. What I've learned is that a lot of departments are so focused and so geared towards their focus that a lot of times that creates silos. So we're just hopefully ingratiating ourselves bit by bit through individuals that see us and are interested in hopefully working with us.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Corey. You mentioned a few things. Take notes. Take notes. This is good. So some of the things that stood out to me was creating possibilities, serving on committees within the organization, being that voice for the community, right? In part, and also making real intentional connections with other departments. And you've given us the call to work on continuing to not operate in silos, right? It's something that we are all challenged by, but those silos really create barriers. And so how do we continue to connect the dots, know who to speak with, talk to the right people? So we're doing this work together. I think that's extremely, extremely important. You also mentioned nonprofits. Nonprofits do a lot of work. They depend on so many people, and it's a heavy lift. And so resources for nonprofits are vital. Can you expound on some of the resources that you benefited from as a nonprofit that really helps Black space to continue to elevate the work that they're doing and make the impact that they're having?
Well, champions like yourself, Tony, I think you kind of underplay yourself, or you are a huge champion for organizations like ourselves. Being able to have that introduction, just to be able to talk to Dr. Shapiro, to be able to talk to Dr. Jordan, and many others, that you can be able to see that there is some type of cohesiveness and some type of overlap between missions and being able to really work with one another. I think that being able to identify those champions within many different departments and programs, I know the silos can be kind of detrimental. However, we all know when it comes to the nonprofit structure, you're just geared towards your work, and this is what you're passionate about. This is what your overall purpose is. And so I don't fault anyone for that. There's just a possibility, if there's ever a possibility, Dr. Knox, myself, and Darius are always welcome to introduce ourselves. We're actually working with organizations such as the Milwaukee Bucks and Generac. We're working through their affinity groups. We're able to introduce ourselves just to their affinity groups, because that's the one group that isn't so siloed. Their affinity groups are pulling people from many different departments for the BRG or LGBTQIA or Latinx group, that they're able to kind of pull in and be able to hopefully have a moment or just a space for themselves. We are not shy being able to hopefully introduce ourselves virtually or in person. Dr. Knox, I guarantee you, will put a smile on your face within the first 10 seconds of you seeing her. And if she does not, I will pay you whatever is in my pocket in that guarantee.
Yeah, she puts a smile on your face no matter what. I vouch for that 100,000,000%. So, Corey, what I heard is introductions lead to possibilities. Yeah, Introductions lead to possibilities. We never know what this could lead to. So there's no box. We get out the box, we break away from the box, and we step into the possibility. I really appreciate that. And so I'm just gonna, I'm monitoring the chat. If you all have any questions for Corey, for Black Space, please put them in the chat. We want to hear from you. You can also unmute too when it's time. We'll give you that cue, but write those questions in that chat or unmute when it's time. We're going to keep the conversation going because we have additional questions. We talked about how larger organizations can support Black Space. We know what they're doing in the community, and it's expanding. I'm so happy to hear these connections that you all are making. Tell us how we as community members, community citizens help Black Space. What does that look like?
Honestly, just being able to create more connections. If there's anything that we could be able to provide, I think just knowing that we exist in the ecosystem, and then two, being able to hopefully hold a conversation and that, building off of that connection. I see that MCW is making that diligent concerted effort and being able to connect with smaller nonprofits that can connect them to the base or to the audiences that they would like to be introduced to. There's a series of different videos that I see across my Facebook constantly with MCW partnering with the Health Connection, partnering with Harry Evans, with Heal Black Men, and many other organizations to be able to hopefully mend or at least create a bridge in areas that they feel that there's a need for the audience to know. So if there's a connection that we can make, and this may not be a direct connection for Black Space, I know that we are utilized as a resource to be able to hopefully connect any and everyone to other many resources that are available with other nonprofits throughout the whole ecosystem here in Wisconsin. Wisconsin has the most nonprofits per capita than anywhere else across the U.S. And so that means that at least 12% of our workforce development in the state of Wisconsin comes from nonprofits. And that is the underlying backbone through major cities like Milwaukee, Madison, and Green Bay, that individuals that are living below the poverty line, you really rely on. So this ecosystem that we have here in the nonprofit world, we all know each other. We are all working in some type of geared system where we're helping with one another. And so if just asking or just wanting to be able to connect, we are here as a resource for either us directly or indirectly for another organization.
Oh, I love that. And even nonprofits, reminding ourselves not to sit in that silo space either. Like all our work connects some way. It's human work. It's hard work, as we mentioned. And so those silos, definitely getting rid of those, creating different barriers and possibilities is so important. Just letting that go. And it takes time, but as we hear from your example, we hear how you're partnering with other nonprofits and thinking outside the box. It's such a beautiful example for all of us today. So we're getting some questions in the comments. So let me honor some of those. Dr. Nelson, and again, shout out to the Office of Community Engagement who really creates these spaces for us. It's the videos that you all see on social media. A lot of that comes through this office. So again, shout out to the amazing team here. All right, so Dr. Nelson, we're gonna get to your question. He asked, can we talk about the importance of recognizing Black and Brown culture to support mental health? Corey, what would you say to that?
Being able to recognize Black and Brown cultures means that you're able to allow the person that you're sitting across from to be able to understand, hey, I don't see you as a data filler. I don't see you as a possible liaison to all the many of questions in my medical history or for your medical history to be able to be utilized as a stamping point for whatever I need. There is this cultural nuance and this cultural competency that I see you as. There is me being able to understand, hey, as a Black man, I understand you may not want to be approached by a therapist because there is this strained relationship between medicine or just medical research versus the Black community. Same thing for many other communities. There are communities that have a strained relationship with the medical ecosystem. And so there is this small ingratiation that we have to first see. And one of those many small ingratiation and those first steps are being able to recognize the culture and being able to understand the history that has allowed this relationship to kind of strain itself. And hopefully just mending that relationship first and foremost, and then working on from there. So what does that look like? That looks like being able to sponsor some youth programs or being able to just volunteer time to say, hey, I would love to be able to allow some of the young people or some of the individuals to get to know me. Let's have a sit and lunch and be able to talk to different community leaders and being able to also see how can we essentially work now or in the future to work with one another. The Thrive On collaborative that is going on MLK has been a 3-year project. And as you're able to see, aside from just the building itself, being able to ingratiate yourselves in the community well before the building is actually even filled with any individuals is a process all within itself. So there is a multitude of individuals that have a stake or investment in the Thrive All Collaborative that are personally putting boots on the ground first. It's like Versity and many of other organizations are creating an established relationship with the community first, and then allowing them to be able to also, hopefully, once the building is all up and running, to be able to experience what does it look like for a physical relationship to kind of stand still as well. Let me know if I'm also going on a rant. I just had a coffee and Americano, and I am juiced up a little bit. So, and was I able to answer Dr. Nelson's question throughoutly?
Dr. Nelson, let us know.
Yeah, Corey, I think you nailed it. I appreciate your candor in the space and being able to talk about, and I mentioned in the chat, the idea that the strain that exists between white culture and Black culture and the bridge that needs to occur, right? And to have, and I think that this is also true, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this and how we get more Black and Brown counselors and into that field to represent and to be supportive of other people that they can relate to. So, but I loved your answer. Thank you.
I think it's much deeper than just white and Black culture disconnect. I think it's a relationship with medicine, because if I was also to put a doctor at the end of my name, I then create a disconnect through the community and the culture myself, because initially that doctor name kind of puts a subtle nuanceness that allows a person to, from the north side of Milwaukee, to see, hey, you're not here for a benefit of me, you're here to be able to just find some medical research. I think it's just medicine and then Black and Brown cultures having a disdained relationship. But I think that can be definitely worked on. There is a multitude of steps being able to work or at least mend that itself. And sorry, I am ranting, and I am also just thinking a mile a minute right now. This Americano has probably 2 espresso shots, so I'm just doing too much. Sorry.
Or I'm trying to be professional right here, like whatever that looks like. But listen, we're having a conversation. We're family. Don't even worry about it. I'm loving your energy around this. It shows your passion. So it is all good. Dr. Nelson, thank you for your questions and your thoughts on this. When you think about this conversation, right, these barriers that we face, I often think about the curve in terms of Black and Brown therapists getting into the field is not going to change dramatically right away. It's just not. I've accepted that. So what would you say to someone who doesn't identify as a person of color, who is a therapist? What is one thing that they should challenge themselves to do when they are connecting with a community that they may not have real connection with based upon identities? What is that one thing that you feel could mend some of that divide? You talked a little bit about honoring the story of systemic racism and healthcare biases that still permeate today. What would you add to that, Corey?
Yeah, so currently we're working with Penfield Children's Center, who has a team of therapists that are providing their services for a community. The physical location of Penfield sits right in the middle of a north side community that are underserved and underpopulated, or underserved and overlooked far too often. And so being able to understand that history of where you're set in, I think that all of the Midwest or upper Midwest, there's this idea of isolation because we sit through very cold and frigid winter months. So most of the time, we're just going straight to the location we need to and then coming back home, or whether we're just sitting in our home for weeks on end. There is this disconnect far often that we also don't understand where's the history that we're physically in and how that can be able to hopefully dictate its future for us. So right now, Black Space is collaborating with Penfield to work with their therapists to allow them to be able to also have a greater understanding of the history, also understand the cultural nuanceness by way of Dr. Knox, and being able to ingratiate them in that process. We're partnering and we're making sure that we're having a concerted effort in doing so for the next 3 years. This can't be a one-off relationship where we're here for only a few months and we're gone for the next few years and we're possibly brought back in to be able to put out a fire. That's not going to be able to work. The first year is in a very intentional year where we're sitting down and we're understanding where's the strained relationship coming from. And then also understanding what is the inner workings of this organization and how can we be able to possibly connect some of the dots. The next following year, we're looking to execute on some of the ideation and some of the methods we're looking to possibly give out to the community that we worked on in year 1 and year 2. And in year 2, we also are asking not to be graded because we're looking to see where some of these polished methods can be able to be best implemented where they're at. So, for example, Penfield is a vast organization. They work with kids that have disability as young as 6 or 7 years of age to elderly individuals. What we implement for the youth won't be able to be as applicable for the elderly community. So we have to also understand our second year, we're trying to find a distinction between two and find a method that works for both. And third year, that's when we can really get graded on because we kind of polish this method and this ideation process, and we're just looking to execute. And then third year, we're looking at what we've been able to accomplish, what our impact is in these particular divisions and also the communities and departments. And then we're looking at what ways that we could be able to hopefully leapfrog this into year 4, 5, 6, and this can be an automated train that is now just being advised by Black Space and not worked on by Black Space, and to be able to kind of go from there.
Oh, that's exciting, Corey.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It keeps me up at night.
That. I'm sure it does. That's why you got that coffee.
Yeah.
I love the intention. It's not a one and done. You all are building a relationship. You're building a relationship which will create sustainability, right? For years to come. You're shifting culture. And that's what we all are aiming to do. We're trying to change culture. What a beautiful, I can't wait to hear more. You're going to have to come back and let us know how that's going and how we can continue to support you in that. I love it. That's so exciting. I want to get to some other questions because Zandra, I see yours. It's an extremely important one. Thank you so much, my friend, for that. But we're going to take a moment and we're going to talk about you a little bit more, Corey, because you have shared with us so much. We're going to try to, encapsulate all of this. I'm going to try my best. One of the questions, which thank you for sharing this, for asking this compassionate question is, how do you take care of yourself while you're taking care of others? What does that look like for you?
What it looks like for me is being able to know how to log off. I am a 90s baby, so I was not in the culture of being on the internet or being on my computer for far too long. I know how to be able to disconnect. And so I am essentially the man behind the computer. Dr. Knox is the one that is oftentimes in the field, and she's the only licensed therapist that we have here at Black Space. I'm just the person that does the fundraising and also the connections and being able to also do anything else that's needed. I know that for me, I have to have a chance to be able to disconnect. Rather, it is in between sessions. We make sure we have quarterly group sessions that are for the public, and then we also are doing bi-weekly sessions for certain organizations. I have a 18-month-old daughter. She will be 19 months by next week, Tuesday, and she keeps me up at night. And also, she's just a very exploratory young girl that is never sits down in one spot for too long. And so that is a challenge for me to be able to make sure that I am balancing time for her and also for my partner. We are trying to figure out what does this world look like now being parents and also having mom and dad time alone and mom, dad, and baby time. So it's just honestly comes to my obsessive need of being able to plan well ahead of time. And so I just let my team know and I let everyone know, hey, these dates, I'm completely disconnected. I'm doing these things up until this point. Hey, let's figure it out. Something comes about. It is, if it's not a emergency, we can wait for the next day. We don't have to get to everything all at once. Nonprofit world, everything's so reactionary. Military has taught me to always be, if you're in a reactionary state, you're going to be losing and that's going to be very detrimental. I have to try to plan as far as ahead and also look at many possible areas that this plan can falter at. And so being able to be more or less more proactive and making sure that we're always in a proactive state and not hinging too much on the reactive state. That's something that's definitely allowed us to be able to make sure, hey, we can plan our calendar months ahead of time, or if not a year ahead of time. And then we don't have to be so reactionary. And we also don't have to jump at every opportunity that comes our way. If it does not fit and align with what we have, but also does not match up with our schedule, it is okay to pass on the opportunity because we'll have many more that will come in the future. I love being with my family. I love listening to music. I love just watching movies. I'm a huge movie buff. I like to just sit there and just watch movies or go to the movie theaters by myself. So, and then also working out and also going to the gym.
That's awesome, Corey. So I heard, listen, you know me and my movie reviews on Facebook. So we there. I heard two things that stood out: proactive and boundaries. PMB. I think we all can benefit that. I want to do something right now for anyone who would be inclined to share what you do for self-care. I want to put that in the chat. I'd love to hear what people are doing for themselves. And then it actually reminds us of what we need to do for ourselves, right? If we're not already doing it. So put what you do for self-care. And we're going to read off a little. Yes, Jess, explore new local restaurants. Love that. Gardening. Love that. Dr. Young, I didn't get the green thumb. It's just not in me. Reading, journaling, writing poetry, exercise, live music. Absolutely. Swim, walk my dog. Not today, right? Not today. Cuddling with my cats, journaling, pottery, cardio, watching fun shows, traveling, talk to my hubby. That's a beautiful blessing. Dogs, a lot of dog folks, a lot of dog people. Dancing. I see you, April. Target runs alone, among other things. I am not judging you. I promise you I do that too. Sessions with my therapist. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Continue to take care of yourselves. We are talking about mental health. Talking to my friends. Spin class. I see you, Jennifer. I see you, Zandra. So important. Self-care is what? Self-preservation. We have to do it. We got to do it. All right. You were going to say something, Corey. Let me know.
I was gonna say that Target run or going to Target runs can be extremely dangerous. You could be going in there to just get the coffee or something from Starbucks or just that $5 item and walk away spending $400 or $500. I got to Costco myself. I love buying in bulk because we eat a lot in this house, and Costco can be a pretty penny that we could spend very easily, $400 or $500 each trip.
Absolutely. No judgment though. No judgment zone, y'all. If you see me at Target, don't look at me funny, okay?
Target is what they call it. Those are the people that go there. Yeah.
I promise it's the red. It's something about the red. There's a study that red attracts the most. All right, we won't talk about that today. No, we're not gonna do that. So let's get back to the questions. I'm gonna get to Zandra's question, absolutely, but we're talking about story. You all collect stories. when you reflect on, September 2020, the birth of Black Space, this beautiful gift that people give you all. Can you share some of those, a couple of maybe anecdotal stories when people have attended these sessions? What do they feel coming out of it?
Yeah. So we are all coming from a culture of griots. That means that we have, since the inception of conversation, we have sat across a campfire or some type of fire and communicated personal stories or group stories or just individual generational stories over time. And so what we're doing in these group sessions are just facilitating those stories. Dr. Knox is the licensed therapist there. However, she is helping facilitate these cross-generational stories, these cross relational stories, and also personal anecdotal stories. I'll say from my very first group session, there was a young man about maybe 18 or 19 of age, 19 years of age, and he was talking about experience of being a father for the very first time. And he was just so worried about what the expectations of himself would be, what his family would be, and also his partner. And so he just kind of felt like he was giving up. He didn't know what would be on this proverbial other end of this bridge. However, he did not know when he was sharing his story, he was sitting across from another young man, 6 years or 60 years his senior, that was in his exact same footsteps, not more than probably 50 or a little under 50 years ago. And he just allowed him to know during that session, everything will be okay. And connected with him after the session and just let him know, hey, if you have anything you want to be able to talk about, let me know. From changing diapers to being able to have like a liaison and being able to mediate discussion between his partner and himself, or just having a person that, hey, you need a nighttime babysitter for you and your partner, I'll be available. And it created this relationship. After that session, there was another group that we worked with, Black and brown women, and none of these women have ever seen each other or been across or came across each other ever before. And they had such a heart to heart relationship or heart to heart conversation being facilitated by Dr. Knox that they decided, hey, what are all y'all doing after this for brunch? Let's go have brunch to continue this conversation. Most of our group sessions last only 90 minutes, but we also prepare for the leakage. There's always times where most of our groups are adding about 30 minutes to 45 minutes well after the group session. And individuals are literally forgetting, oh, I have to pick up my son in about 10 minutes. I have to leave, but that's the only reason why they're leaving. And so a lot of these individuals are creating subgroup committees or communities well after our groups, for them to be able to hopefully return for our groups in the future, or to be able to say, hey, I feel that I found my tribe. I felt like I found my belonging and my purpose, because this issue I was dealing with internally made me feel like I was alone. But me sharing my story has allowed me to be able to connect with other people that have also felt like that, or has overcome that, or are currently in the depths of their own mental anguish as well.
Corey, I'm trying not to cry up in here. Let's be clear. Oh my God, the power of the story. I cannot stress that enough. You walk into a room, maybe alone, and you inherit a tribe of people. What a beautiful residual effects of what you all do. So amazing. Okay, I'm gonna get myself together, y'all. Okay, Zandra, I want to get to your question because it's one that many of us may struggle with. And thank you for sharing part of your story. Again, the power of the story. You talk about you've utilized group therapy throughout your life. And there's this stigma, the stigma is slowly changing, Corey, I think. And I feel so good about that. But there's still biases about therapy being for white folks, or that God will take care of it. That's a part of many the culture of the Black culture a lot of times. How have you overcome that, maybe personally, or how have you seen that being overcome from others, and what strategies did you see people use, perhaps, if you can speak on that?
Yeah, so I'll talk about my personal experience. My very first experience with being with a therapist that was from Brookfield and did not know what background I came from, what resilience or what type of history that I have, or it's like my culture of being able to overcome a lot. And so immediately he saw this young boy that was defeated and felt self-defeated, that he just kind of gave in and say, hey, since you're defeated, you might as well just give up in all aspects of life. However, me speaking with Dr. Knox, it allowed me to know that I come from a history, a rich history that allows me to have resiliency, but not to have this world where I am working in, or I'm not in this world of trauma where, okay, your only story is that you have been this or have this history of resiliency and that's all that you're made of. No, at the end of this proverbial bridge, you're going to have this beautiful life that you have now seen what it's looked like in an ugly setting, but now in a beautiful setting. So you're going to be able to tell your story and be able to connect and help others with their stories as well. Because what Dr. Knox is creating in our sessions is a mental health advocate that can now feel more than equipped to be able to share their stories, but not play as a therapist, but advocate for others to be able to also find their story and find their beautiful setting for themselves. What I am also realizing when it comes to our group sessions, there's a way of being able to ingratiate this. And what that means is that we have to dismantle all possible barriers that allows people to be able to access therapy. What does that mean? Individuals feeling that, hey, I may not be able to afford it. We're completely free, and we make sure that every step of the way is always going to be free. From our cooking sessions to our yoga classes to our regular group sessions, that will always be free. There's accessibility. You guys are on the east side of Milwaukee, or you guys are on the other side of Milwaukee. We go to where the need is needed the most. So if there's a need that is on the north side of Milwaukee or the south side of Milwaukee, we can physically go. We purposely make sure we don't have any physical location because we don't want to create another barrier where individuals say that you are now on a bus line, or it's entirely way too cold for me to come to you guys, or I have to choose to attend you guys' session or make dinner tonight for my family. We go to those communities. We make sure that we are also bringing in meals to these groups. We're not just getting a slice of pizza and we're just saying that that's where you're able to get your nutrition or nutrient needs from. We're also catering with Black and Brown owned businesses. We're spending our dollars in a responsible way. And we know that there are communities of individuals that say, hey, I would love to attend, but I don't make enough money. We're paying for catering services and paying for that particular person's time to be able to attend our group session, as well as being able to make sure we're keeping as much of our funds within our Black and Brown communities to be able to hopefully uplift them in that way too. And we're also saying that therapy traditionally seems like, hey, I have to tell all my business and I'm not just cool with that. We're ingratiating our art therapy program where we're having cooking classes, yoga classes, ceramic classes, and many of other classes that gives them the idea that therapy is just not just confidentiality that's being shared and viewed from many different lenses, and now you feel like that can be weaponized against you. No, we can have a simple cooking class that allows you to be able to be ingratiated with being able to have that communication barrier be dismantled or lowered a bit with a therapist and also other people, and then ingratiating them into our group sessions. So there is a science, but we also understand that we have to always kind of conform or evaluate ourselves. So every person that comes to our group session grades the therapist, they grade the group, they grade the setting that we had the group session in, the food, every aspect, and we're always constantly changing and evolving those aspects.
Oh, Corey, that is beautiful because it all ties into wellness. It all ties
Yes.
into the whole person, the whole person. And so you all create experiences that capture all the senses, and it tells people that I value you.
Yes.
That's what
Yes.
you do.
And there was a question. Yes, we have special groups where,
Yeah.
for confidentiality reasons, where there's a group of men that we see on a monthly basis that live with HIV, and we have particular involvement with them where we bring in a person that deals within life insurance and being able to let these individuals or these men know, hey, you're able to still be applicable for life insurance. You may not have the same track or the same guided path, but you are still able to access that. These men are also able to go horseback riding because of us. These men are also able to live a normal life, but also be able to have a therapist that can help them and guide them in that same way. We're working with diversity to work with individuals that may have leukemia or sickle cell, and they may not have the possibility of being able to have a proverbial light at the end of the tunnel. And we're also working with many of other groups, from single black and brown moms that may not have the accessibility to being able to come to our group, but we're sponsoring a daycare center nearby to be able to take care of their childcare needs, but we're also working with them. Milwaukee Academy of Science is another organization that we're working with, not only the staff members, but also the parents and also the children that they are established with, and being able to work with those individual groups. We understand that there's a wide range, and we just hired 2 therapists this year to be able to kind of shadow Dr. Knox and expand. But we are open to many different groups as well, especially breast cancer as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Jones, for that question. Very important. So we're at 3 minutes. Let me tell you something. If you all don't mind, because one of the things that stood out to me outside of so many things that you said, Corey, was one, you said, I'm just the person. So we're not going to do that. All the wonderful things that you do, fundraising, and then it can be a nonprofit, can be a very thankless job. So I want you all to fill our chat if you haven't, with thoughts of gratitude, if you feel so inclined to do that, for Black Space and what they're doing in the community. It's extremely impactful. And we can share this chat with Corey and the rest of his team. So fill it up with all your thoughts, contact information. Let Corey know how he can reach you, what you might want to partner with. Do that right now in these fleeting moments. Corey, thank you so much. We're going to get some slides up for some closing remarks. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can donate to Black Space. There is a QR code that we'll be able to share with you. Thank you, Jai, for doing that for us. And thank you all so much for your heart and listening and being here in this space with us today. We are truly grateful to you. We are truly grateful to you. Grab that QR code if you don't mind. Again, Black Space is, as you just heard, it's doing so much in the community, and they need our support. So thank you all so much. Our next spotlight will be Hyatt Pharmacy, March 27th. Please join to learn about all the amazing things that this pharmacy continues to do in our community. And again, we thank you all so much. Continue to safe care and stay warm out there. We'll see you all next month.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.